Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Powerful Man Show. I am your host, Tim Matthews, with my co-host, Doug, the radio voice Holtz.
It's too funny watching you do this. You look, one, uncomfortable, but two, everybody that's listened to this show knows that you and I have been, great friends for so long, and we give each other a bunch of crap, so it's always fun. So it's funny to watch you prep for that. Tim, how you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing great. I'm reading a book at the minute all about negotiation. Let me just bring it up. I don't know if you know who it's by, but anyway, what I found really interesting about this was, and this is by a guy that was one of the top negotiators for the FBI.
Read it.
And yeah, and what's the second point? It's called Never Split the Difference. Yeah, do you remember what the second point is?
I don't remember the second point, but I did read the book right before I did a negotiation across country.
Okay. And did you realize that you have the radio voice?
I did not realize that. No, I've been told Mel actually used to give me a hard time about my radio voice.
Yeah. Well, it's actually really useful in negotiation, as I'm sure you know. I know you're playing dumb now, but I bet you've been practicing. As I read it, I'm like, holy shit, I could do with working on my voice.
It's true. That's a great book.
Well, anyway,
I actually used that book. I was going cross country, maybe a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, with my family, and I was negotiating a business deal, and I happened to be listening to that book, and I used a lot of those tactics, and it worked smashingly.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Ah, very well. Very nice.
Yep.
Was that on me?
Yep.
Oh, great. Full circle. So what I want to talk about today is closing out the year. Yeah, it is. And what sparks this is I've been speaking with a couple of guys in the Brotherhood, Mike Philbin today and Ryan Peach last night. And, I don't share this to, in your words, Doug, be braggadocious. But yeah, Ryan was saying, Tim, I'm so grateful to you and the team. This time last year, I can remember speaking with him. He'd just come out of marriage counseling, and him and his wife, it wasn't working for them, and he was in tears, and he was saying, look, I just don't know where we can go from here. And then he said, it gives me goosebumps. On the phone call last night, he said, Tim, I just cannot believe where I am 12 months on. I'm stood in St. Augustine in Florida in December in shorts and T-shirt. I'm sweating. My wife and I are happily married. She's no longer depressed like she was this time last year. My kids are happy and doing amazingly well. And I'm the happiest I've ever been. And then I spoke to Mike Philbin today. And he said something similar. He said, you know what, Tim, this morning, something happened at the house. He's got 3 kids, obviously, as you know. And he said the kids are getting restless because they just want to finish school. Because on Friday they go on holiday. They're going away to Cape Verde over the Christmas season, right? And he said, yeah, the kids are just getting restless. They're tired. They've almost done their full term. They can see Christmas is on the horizon. They just want it to be here. And the house was manic this morning. He said, Tim, do you know what? 12 months ago, I would have erupted, shouted at the kids, stormed out of the house, left Rach to deal with it, and she wouldn't have spoken to me for 3 days. This morning, I got the kids together, sat them down, calmed them down, said, look, guys, let's just have something to eat. There's worse things you could be stressed over. We're going away in a few days. Just hang in there. It's not much longer. And the result of it was the family was one, united. And he said, Tim, where I am now compared to this time, I can't believe, it's similar to Ryan. I can't believe where I am now compared to this time last year. My relationship with Rach, his kids, himself. He said last year I was never satisfied. And that's the first agony, right? I was never satisfied, no matter what I achieved. I never saw it. Rach always used to say it to me, and I never saw it until recently. It really got me thinking, wow, what has the year been like? A year can seem such a small amount of time, right? But so much can be achieved if you just stay the course and you just hit singles and you focus on those singles every day. Boom, 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 boom. So when you're consistent with it, they add up into they can add up into a remarkable result. So yeah, I just wanted to bring it to the table and open up a conversation about closing the year out. Maybe, invite the listeners to potential ways that they could maybe review their year, close the year out, what are the biggest lessons for them so they can go into next year really strong, having learned the lessons of this year and building on them instead of repeating the mistakes of the past, because we've all been there, right? And we all know how frustrating that is. So yeah, over to you, Mr. Radio Voice.
The pressure is on. I feel like I got to make sure I keep drinking water or something over here. So I think you bring up some good points here. One is as business leaders, we go through goals, right? We hit an obstacle or a goal or whatever it is, we just smash through it. And as soon as we're done, we dust ourselves off and we go after the next bigger goal. We don't take the time to celebrate or reflect oftentimes unless you have a process in place. And most men don't, years ago I didn't. And that can lead to a lot of unfulfillment because you look back at the year and you're looking like, oh crap, I have this whole laundry list of things I have not gotten done rather than reflecting on the things that you have. So that's one. The second thing that I think comes up for a lot of us as business leaders is we don't take time to look at our failures as opportunities, right? Or learning lessons. And you said that very eloquently. So if we can take those two things, Tim, and put those together, that gives us the framework or the basis for the reflection time of what we want to do. And I think reflection time is extremely important. Obviously, the men that go through the Powerful Man, the activation method, which is the flagship course that we have, all men have to start there. There's a thing called the COIL. And in the COIL, there is reflection time every day and then actually every week that you're going through. And then we also teach the guys reflection time at the month, reflection time at the quarter. And here we are at the end of 2019. And the reflection time that I use and we use within the company for 2019 is so much more robust. And the reason it is it's really reflection time and celebration time can put together. You're really closing out a successful year, no matter what it is. Now, for some of the guys listening, they're going through hardships in their relationship. Maybe their health isn't where they want to be. Maybe their business isn't where they want it to be. Maybe they're depressed, right? Guys listening to this, I get it. I've been there and Tim has too. What we want to look at are what are those lessons learned, right? What are those things that you've learned over 2019? And I'd invite you guys to grab a journal. If you don't journal, grab a piece of paper. You can use a legal pad or what have you. But I do encourage you to write it out. There's something that happens in the kinesthetic transfer when you're writing something versus typing it. Writing something allows us to get more creativity through, but it's also, there's been studies, I think it's in neuroplasticity, I might be a little bit off there, but there's studies that actually show that they can anchor it in. And so write down what those lessons are. And one way to start that is maybe writing down some of your struggles that you've had. And then what was the lesson from that struggle? Maybe it's your wife left you. Maybe it's you've had a death in your family. What did you?
But Doug,
what's that?
I don't mean to interrupt. Well, I do kind of mean to interrupt, but it's in a healthy way. So what a lot of the guys that come to us don't journal. So how would you recommend that they're able to pull out these lessons from the past 12 months, not just the lessons that they're feeling in the moment? Like, it might be very obvious to some of the guys that the relationship isn't working. So one of the struggles might be connecting with the wife, for example. Yeah. But, usually, as we know, there's often a pattern across other areas of the life, right? So what could you recommend for these guys to do to be able to pull out the lessons from the entire year if they haven't been journaling? Because when you do journal, guys, obviously you can read back over your journals from the year and it's all there.
You just think about it, really. Just, you can flip through your calendar and look at things, flip through your social media, just sit down and have some thinking time. So, that brings us, we've talked about thinking time, which I got from Keith Cunningham, but we can sit there and look at the actual, set aside a time, 2-hour block, right? And if you don't have 2 hours in your schedule, you need to set it over even more than the average person, right? You need this time. Because if you don't have 2 hours, you need to reflect on these lessons of why the heck you don't have 2 hours.
Yeah, for sure.
So get your paper, get your coffee, your water, whatever it is you want, tea, and then think about what's happened. Maybe it's one way of looking at it, Tim, is what have you been your biggest complaints this year? What's happened to you?
It's a good one.
And things like that. And write them down. But write them down and leave a space so you can write down what's the lesson there for yourself. And I know there's people out there listening to this right now. They're like, screw you, Doug. My wife left me. There's no lesson in that. She left me for my friend. There is a lesson in that. You're choosing not to look at it. You're choosing not to grow. And you're allowing your ego to hold you down. If you want to be in that, go ahead. It's up to you. But my guess is, just doing this with thousands of people over the years, decades at this point, is that you don't really want to be in that state. You want to be in a state where you can take the learning and apply it to your life to better yourself. So that's one thing you can do. Another thing you can do is by looking back, reflecting at your wins. What are the successes you've had? And even come up with small ones, right? Hey, you know what? I didn't lose the 40 pounds or whatever maybe your goal was, but I hit the gym on a regular basis, right? And so I'm healthier for it, right? I've lost 10. Great, that's a win, right? Again, as business leaders, we tend to focus on what we have not done or have not accomplished. I want you to flip the script here. Focus on what you have accomplished. What have you won? Have you closed deals in business? Were you able to bring on a key employee? Were you able to get rid of employees that were holding you down? Were you able to foster a better relationship with your spouse? Maybe listening to a podcast like this or to a show like this is one of your wins because you're bettering yourself. You're working on bettering yourself. Write it down. I would like you to exhaust this list. And what I mean by that is pages upon pages. The smallest thing works and it counts as a win on this. So get as many wins as you can, because what we're doing here is stacking evidence in the case that you are a winner. And you are a winner in all areas of your life. And that's what we want to get you in there for, that you're doing. So another thing, Tim, that you could do here in the reflection time is looking at this.
I didn't ask you for another thing.
You're going to, though. So the other thing that you can do here when you're looking at this reflection is, and look at those things that maybe you didn't hit, right? What are those goals that you set for yourself in New Year's resolutions, or if you're like our guys, you're doing a 90-day game, what are the goals you fell short of or didn't hit? And then ask yourself why. Is there a pattern here, right? Many of you have set goals year after year after year. It's the same friggin' goal, but it becomes elusive. And I think at that point, you got to, you're not Bill Murray in Groundhog Day where you wake up and it's the same story over and over again, yet you're acting like it in your life. And why is that? Why is that? Why haven't you gotten help? Why haven't you raised your hand, reached out and said, hey, look, I could use some help in this area. The relationship with my wife isn't working. I could use some help. But why have you been too scared to raise your hand and ask for help? What's really going on there?
But maybe some of the guys, just in that example, they have asked for help. Maybe they've tried therapy, or like Ryan, for example. Yeah. Ryan this time last year had literally come out of the marriage counseling session. So sometimes, it's it's the wrong type of help, and then people can get discouraged.
Sure.
Like again, we've had other guys come to us that have tried marriage counseling and said on the call, look, it didn't work. I just don't think we're meant to be together. Yeah, they've gone on to forge incredible marriages.
Yeah. So then again, we're looking at lessons learned, right? And if you're doing something that doesn't work, so another analogy we'll use here, we're going off topic a little bit, but I think it's appropriate. So I have a son. We've talked about him a lot in this podcast. He's just over 2.5 years old. So when he was first learning to walk, right, he got up, he fell. I didn't go, well, it doesn't work. Walking doesn't work for him. I'm out of here. No, you try again. You try different things. You give them the opportunity to go for it. If marriage counseling didn't work for someone like Ryan sought out the powerful man, or, he came to us and asked for help and was able to receive the help that he needed. So, we're in Ryan's case, using him as the example that you brought up, you got to keep forging forward. And the reason we want to use this review and this reflection time is this gives us data, right? It's like looking at your bank statement, or as a business owner, you're looking at your P&L, your statement of cash flow, your balance sheet. And you can look over a period, the last 12 months, how have things gone, right? I have a KPI for a sales guy, and has he done the sales? Whatever his sales been from January to December. I can tell you how he's doing based on that. You want to be able to look at your life the same way, right? In all 5 territories, we really want to look at it is, how's your health? How's your wealth? How are your relationships, right? How's that? How's your relationship with self going on? And how's your business? So looking at all 5 territories, Tim, that we talked about, you can really get some great optics on how 2019 was. And what happens so often to people is we're running right into 2019, and depending on your religion, for most religions, there's a holiday here, regardless. Those holidays involve family. Family involves triggers and things that upset us. And so oftentimes we can end the year pissed off and bummed and go, 2019 sucked, right? If we really look back and reflect, we can see all the greatness that happened in 2019 for us. For you and I, we've traveled all over the world together and separately, Tim, helping men, right? Helping men release themselves from the bonds and the agonies. Those are things that can be easily lost, because right before this podcast, you and I were in a meeting about what we're going to do in 2020, and we were talking about some things that we want to fix and build up. And it's easy to roll into that and just looking forward at what we want to do, rather than reflecting on, you brought up Ryan and Mike and the people that we've helped along the way. And I think that's critically important for all the guys listening to this too, right? And this reflection time is really important, because there's nothing wrong. What are you going to do next year, right? Once you reflected, what are you going to do to make 2020 different? Or are you going to be that guy that has the same problems, bitching about the same things, the same issues in your marriage, the same issues with your employees, the same issues with lack of friends, or whatever else your story is? Or is 2020 the time you're actually going to do something about it? Is 2020 the time you're going to double down, step on the gas, and actually take control of your life, reclaim, reset who you are, and move forward as a man? So that's the way I look at
it. Is that it?
No, I got more, but I know you give me a hard time at the end of this for talking too much and sharing, but I'm passionate about reflection time. Yeah. I want the guys listening to this to have it all. And it drives me nuts when we talk to business leaders who they're on the fence, right? You sent me an email from a guy which blew my mind, who said something like, his marriage wasn't working, and he wanted some kind of guarantee that if he went through the Alpha Reset program, that all of a sudden his wife was going to, fall in love with him again. And it was just ridiculous that he wasn't able to take the leap of actually taking action. He was using it as another excuse to hold him back. And that stuff just pisses me off, because the men listening to this, they don't realize their greatness. You and I get to see it all the time, because we see men go through the Alpha Reset. We see them go through the activation method and into the brotherhood. And we see them realize their power and greatness and really expand, but the guys don't get a chance to see it themselves. And that's why I get so fired up about this topic.
Yeah, me too. As I said on the last episode, in fact, it wasn't on this one, we just moved house, hence, the makeshift place I'm doing the podcast from right now. But when we handed in the keys yesterday, just thought I'd get that in there. When we handed the keys in yesterday, it really had me reflecting on the past 2 years, which, was just a momentary, about 10, 15 minutes. I didn't get out the journals and things, but, just one metric for me was incredible. Of the 24 months that we'd been in there, we'd taken 22 trips. And I say we, I mean me and Amelia, or me and you, or me and, the powerful man, or whatever.
Yeah, it's amazing.
And it was such a whirlwind. And I definitely will be reviewing my year properly, like I do every year. And also like we do every week, right? Because the Tribe of Intentional Living, if I do not review my week, I go into the following week, I just feel everything blurs into one. Whereas when I do review my week, even just for an hour, I am overflowing with joy and appreciation and enthusiasm, because what might have felt like an exhausting week has soon turned into a week where we've had a load of records, personal records, whether it's in my fitness or in the Powerful Man or breakthroughs with Amelia, whatever it is, right? And then the points where I felt like I was coming up against obstacles, like you said, I'm then able to turn them into lessons. So you leave the session, it's just a game changer. It totally changes your state, and providing you actually action what comes up, right? So what I'll then do is I'll go and make changes to my Google Calendar, or I'll put stuff in the project management software we use, or whatever it is, to make sure the right habits are built from what I'm learning. But yeah, it's an absolute must to be doing this. So Doug, to wrap this up, to be a little bit more concise, if you will, seeing as I'm the one that's going to be signing us out of this show. I know that you're smirking about that. 3 questions that the guys can journal on. Now, you may want to give more, but what are some questions that the guys can be journaling on?
I want to give more, but I'll keep it to 3. What are the major lessons you learned in 2019? What are your wins for 2019 that you want? And what are you going to change going into 2020?
Oh, I like that one.
4th one, bonus question, is how committed are you? Not the BS one, but how committed are you to making those changes? Be honest with yourself. Look in the mirror. How committed are you?
Yeah, I'd just say, are you committed? Yes or no, because I don't think you can be. How are you committed? It's kind of like there's a scale, but there isn't, is it? The reality is you're committed or you're not.
Exactly. Yeah. So again, if you're not a 10, you're not committed. Difference between a boy and a man, in my opinion, is a boy does what he wants to do when he wants to do it. A man does what needs to be done.
And a final question I will add on to that as well. Who can I reach out to help me accelerate the path? I used to always, personally for me, when I'd review my year, I'd then plan my following year with the vision of having to do it all myself. But then when I started to look at, okay, well, I want to achieve this. Okay, well, who can I reach out to? Who do I know? Whether it's a company or whether it's people, whatever, who can I reach out to? And if you don't have anyone in your immediate circle that, does fit the criteria, let's say, for example, you don't have anyone in your immediate circle that has the kind of marriage that you would want to have alongside the guy running the kind of business that you want to run, then, maybe that's the point at which you then choose to pay to gain access to people. I did that, and it was one of the best things I ever did. So guys, that's another episode of the Powerful Man Show. That is December the 31st, episode 138. And this year, guys, we have released 127 episodes. So thank you, guys. Thank you for being part of this journey, giving Doug and I an audience to actually speak to that will listen to us. So we don't just have to listen to one another. And, if that person that you want to reach out to and get support from is us, then head over to thealphareset.com. You can find out a lot more there about how we help men that might be in the position you're in. And if you do reach out, then awesome. I'm going to look forward to speaking to you, whether it's myself or Doug who you speak to. It's going to be a pleasure. So, guys, I hope 2019 has been the best year yet. And if it hasn't, then please make 2020 the best year yet, because we like to think we've got all the time in the world when in reality we do not. So, Doug, thank you, my friend. That's another year under the belt.
You're welcome.
I've survived. We've had our moments. We've had our trips to the Sahara, to lots of other cool places, and long may it continue. So thank you, brother.
You're welcome.
And we'll catch you on the next episode, guys.